What's up, everybody? I'm about to turn 30, and that marks 15 years of dedicated training. During that time, I've made a lot of mistakes, learned a lot of lessons, and want to share 10 of the most valuable and important ones that I wish I knew when I was starting out. So let's get right into it. Number 1, excessively focusing on the minutia. How many meals per day is ideal? What angle should my arm be at while doing a lat pull down? Which squat accessory is best? While there is merit in trying to maximize outcomes, often these details get obsessed over in place of things that actually matter way more. The number of meals you eat per day isn't as important as how much you're eating and whether your calorie balance is appropriate. The specific angle of your arm during a lat pull down is not as important as you pushing the effort while doing them and getting reasonably close to failure and progressively overloading it. The exact squat accessory you do is less relevant than you squatting regularly and doing some accessories to hit the major muscles that support squatting. Instead of worrying about these small details that at best make up a very small percentage of possible gains, prioritizing the more important stuff is huge. Get into the gym on a regular basis. Train hard, show up when you don't want to, and repeat that process. Eat a reasonable amount of protein. If you want to gain weight, eat more food. If you want to lose weight, eat less food. There is more to it than just that, but most people don't even do those things and instead focus on the minor details. Number 2, thinking I needed a special program or secret exercise. German volume training, small off, starting strength, etc. There are so many programs out there that it can be confusing about which one to pick. Oftentimes, individuals will search for the perfect program, assuming that they need to find a program that is essentially customized to every detail about them to see results. Or they think that if they haven't been making progress, it's because they need a special program that they don't have or doesn't even exist yet. Now, take this from someone who owns a company that sells programs. You likely don't need a special program. The vast majority of people out there need a program that aligns with their current goals and works with the equipment that they have. Then you need to stick with it for a good amount of time, being consistent and effortful. That's where most people go heavily wrong, which brings us to number 3, program hopping and goal switching. One of the key principles of exercise physiology is progressive overload. By doing something over and over again and challenging yourself to improve with it, you make progress. A lot of people go from one program to another program, thinking the grass will be greener or the next program will be more fruitful. This limits your ability to progressively overload. Similarly, people will shift from one focus to another focus, such as wanting to build muscle, but then wanting to get shredded. With that, they often end up just spinning their wheels and not making the progress that they want. Spending a solid length of time chasing down one goal and doing a consistent program is optimal for the long term. Number 4, wasting money on supplements, particularly fad supplements. Supplements are meant to supplement. People often think of them as a special secret or essential keys to success. Don't get me wrong here. I'm a fan of appropriate supplements, ones that are backed by research and will actually deliver on results. However, most of the supplement market is built upon supplements with questionable efficacy and just a ton of hype. Utilizing supplements like creatine, beta-alanine, etc. can be helpful to boost your performance, but if you aren't training consistently, putting in a solid amount of effort, eating well most of the time, and taking care of all the other things that reinforce growth and improvement, adding in a special supplement isn't going to do much. Much like the minutia point from the beginning, if you aren't doing the major stuff, supplements can't supplement anything. For those who are crushing it and want some evidence-based supplements, check out the ones from Legion. They're a high-quality company that makes solid supplements and provides references for what's in their products, as well as offering no proprietary blends. You get what you're looking for in their products. You can use code Dr. Sam for 20% off your first order, and I'll leave a link down in the description box that you can utilize. These are the supplements that I take personally and stand behind. Number 5, prioritize technique, but build it through legitimate training. I don't think you'll find too many people who don't think technique matters when it comes to training. If you want to get as strong as possible, build more muscle, move faster, etc., your technique will matter a lot. However, what should you do if you don't have good technique? Should you just do light training and work on form? Maybe at first, but technique is effort and load specific. If you don't push yourself or train heavy, then you aren't going to develop technique at heavy loads. This is all too common where individuals will have a technique issue in movements like squats, deadlifts, bench press, etc. Usually these individuals will drop down to just the bar or some other very light weight and stay there working on form for some length of time and then jumping back up to the weight they got rocked at before, usually not making much significant difference in their actual technique. Instead of that, dropping down the weight to where you can maintain your technique, but it's heavy enough that you are working hard, that you're being challenged to a high degree, is going to be beneficial. This is real technique work and will pay off way more for people than just spending time at a light weight, not getting the results you're looking for. Building on that, number 6, generally use full range of motion. It's all too common to find people cutting reps short, doing partial range movements to just load them up heavier. This might be for ego lifting, or these people might think that it actually leads to better results. But either way, it's actually likely leading to less overall results. When it comes to building muscle, more range of motion is usually superior. If you haven't seen our best exercise series where we go through all of the major muscle groups, such as the quads, pecs, hamstrings, etc., then I highly suggest you check that out. I'll link a bunch of them down below. In it, we highlight the research on different muscles and what it says for developing them to the best degree of training. A common theme for many of the muscles is that a deeper range of motion facilitates better muscle growth. If your goal isn't specifically hypertrophy, then it does begin to change slightly. However, for most people, training through a big, full range of motion is going to be beneficial. Number 7, shift what you think is possible, especially drug-free. In the fitness space, it's too common to hear people just point to anyone who is in better shape, leaner, stronger, etc., and just say it's due to drug use. This is a huge cop-out. Sure, there are lots of people who use drugs and lie about it, but there are also tons of examples of people with great results who do not use drugs. When you use a statement like that, you rely on it, and instead of challenging yourself to improve, step up, and do all the things that you can to improve your physique, your results, etc. to the best of your abilities, you leave something on the table because you give yourself an excuse for why you're not seeing those results. If we go back 100 years, we can see examples such as Eugene Sandow and Steve Reeves, who were showing impressive physiques and strength before steroids even existed. The same can be said for people who utilize genetics as an argument for not having the results they desire. Sure, there are people who are outliers and have a hard time building muscle, increasing strength, etc. But even in these people, they can still make pretty solid results if they follow the guiding principles we've outlined so far. Take my homeboy Broden as an example. He's the chief executive, editor, and videographer of our channel. Before he was that though, he was a skinny, very skinny CrossFitter who had incredible endurance, but not much in the strength or power department. He had been training for years, and training hard, but just hadn't quite known the right things to do, often focused on the minutiae, and did a lot of program hopping. Then we met about 2 years ago, and within a few months, I started coaching him. During that time, he went from 160 pounds up to a peak weight of 192 pounds, and now has settled down around 181, with the game plan to do a slower gradual gain now. In addition to his weight gain, he's also made huge strength gains. Before we started working together, his best bench press was 175 pounds, and squat was 275 pounds. Now, he's back squatting 300 pounds for 10, bench pressed over 230 pounds, and he's deadlifted over 440 pounds. In summary, through sticking to the basics, being consistent with it, and focusing in on his goals, he's made a ton of progress, when people before would have pointed to his genetics or other variables and say that he just doesn't have the potential for it. Number 8, surround yourself with people who push you. Training atmosphere can make a huge difference for people. I'm all for motivation, mental resilience, and working on sheer determination, but being surrounded by people who not only push you, but also elevate you in general, and on days where you'd otherwise slack or not even show up, can be truly beneficial. Take Daniel as an example. He's a local videographer who we're friends with, and he started to come out and help us with some videos and then train afterwards. It's been about 7 weeks now that he's been training with us, and his results highlight everything we just talked about. When he started, he couldn't get half a pull-up, couldn't get more than a couple questionable push-ups. He couldn't squat to depth, even with his heels lifted, and he struggled to deadlift 95 pounds. Now he's hitting weighted pull-ups, having just done 25 pounds added for 3.5 reps the other day. Smashed a set of 10 push-ups with 35 pounds added, squatting close to 200 pounds for reps, and deadlifting close to 300 pounds for reps. His training program is simple, but each week we encourage him to try hard, dial in his technique, but put a bit more weight on the bar. Over time, that consistency and mindset has allowed him to stack up more and more weight on each exposure. Number 9, fearing cardio. Back when I first got into fitness, you'd see lots of blogging memes all about what a sprinter and a marathon athlete looked like, suggesting if you did long distance work, you'd get small, weak, and lose power. This kind of mindset flooded the strength and conditioning world for a long time. Over time, I did eventually learn better and see tons of contrary examples, but I personally hadn't really tested the waters. Then, this year, I took on the adventure of pushing myself in the endurance space and seeing what I was capable of. Now, we're 6 months into this quest, and I've been able to run over 50 kilometers in a single venture, crush half a marathon in an hour and 50 minutes while pushing my daughter in a chariot, all while still being able to hit back squat and deadlift numbers close to all-time bests. Learning how to program aerobic exercise with lifting is important because a lot of people do it wrong, make a lot of mistakes, which we'll be covering in upcoming videos, but it can be done. And finally, number 10, patience. When I first got into lifting, I wanted results now. I would constantly try to do things I was not prepared for, pushing myself to do a ton more volume, crushing myself in training, and spinning my wheels. I see this all the time, whether it's with clients, consultations, friends, or just people on social media. It's totally understandable to want to get results, but going to excessive means and thinking that it's going to make them faster and then getting frustrated when you're not seeing the results you want is not ideal and is just a cycle for burnout. In the thumbnail, I showed a picture of me from 10 years ago. At that time, I'd been training for 5 years, but I would program hop like crazy, change my goals all over the place, and made tons of mistakes. I'd been competing in mixed martial arts at the time and would force myself to cut weight aggressively. A few months after this, I had stopped doing MMA and transitioned to taking my own lifting much more seriously. Across the next 10 years, I have ups and downs with training, seeing numbers move in the right direction, then seeing them come back down. I would shift goals somewhat, such as goals from trying to pack on weight, to shedding it, from focusing on powerlifting to weightlifting, but they weren't fast changes and they weren't aggressive changes either. Every year I was able to look back and see improvements in some kind of way. It might not have always been in a bigger 1-rep max, and it might not necessarily have been more muscle, but I could see consistent improvements in different areas across the years and began to layer on and build and compound. Now I'm sitting in essentially the best shape I've ever been in, and if I were to dedicate a few months to any individual sport, any individual movement, I'd probably be able to set some PRs, which I may end up doing after I wrap up this whole endurance thing. Regardless, taking a slow approach and knowing it will eventually come together better if you stay steady, focused, and effortful is huge. Hopefully this video helps you out and gives you some insight into what you should focus on with your training, help you navigate common mistakes people make with training. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.